Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Carla and this is Knitting Diaries episode 4. This is the slowest series in the history of all series. I apologize for not posting a video in probably, the last 4 to 5 months? But knitting is a slow process for me at this point. What are we? We're in June and I think I've finished 2 objects. So I would very much consider myself a casual knitter. I'm not knitting for speed or for quantity. So these updates come few and far between, but we have an update. This time I have taken notes to kind of keep this a bit structured. So I'm going to review my finished objects. I have 2, and then I also have a WIP. Technically I have 2, but I'm only going to review 1. And then I also want to review my knitting plans for the rest of the year. I may or may not break this down into a seasonal video, but all in all, I think for my channel, the best video style for knitting content and crafting content is just vlog style. So that's exactly what I've been doing. I've just been recording here and there bits and pieces of my crafting life, and then I'll probably do like quarterly updates for my knitting podcast since I am so slow. So without further ado, let's hop into the video. I think you guys can see a little glimpse of what I'm about to take out, but here is my first finished object. I finished this beautiful cardigan. This is the Soul cardigan by Mochi Knits. As you guys can see, is this not the most stunning cardigan? This color, I cannot put into words how much I love this color. This is such a dopamine rush for me. Every time I look at it, I'm just like, wow, I made this. And this was such a hit. My sister offered to pay me money for this, but I will never ever let this go. This may have been featured in maybe 2 videos before, and this did take me quite a bit of time to finish, not because I was constantly knitting on it, but I would start and then stop and then do another project. Because it is a cardigan, you knit flat, which is so tedious. I can do the knit stitch pretty fast, but purling is a bit slower. Luckily, my tension is the same on both sides, so there's no difference. I know some people mentioned that they can see a difference between their tension, but that was not my issue. My issue was just that this was so boring, and the only thing that was keeping me hooked in was the color. And this color, I feel like there are so many things that I want to make in this color. They're falling under the basics category, but I feel like even another sweater number 15 from My Favorite Things Knitwear in this poppy blue would be so stunning. This is the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino and the Soft Silk Mohair, both in the color poppy blue. At this point, I've used quite a few mohairs. 3. I've used Drops Kid Silk, I've used Soft Silk Mohair from Knitting for Olive, and then the Tin Silk Mohair from Santa's Garn. I would say my favorite is Tin Silk Mohair, but this is like, it's in there. It's not itchy at all. The Drops Kid Silk can be very itchy depending on the color for some reason. Some of them are super itchy and some of them are not. But the Soft Silk Mohair from Knitting for Olive is not super fluffy. As you can see, there's not much of a halo effect going on here, but I will show you guys a Drops Kid Silk project that I finished that looks absolutely insane. Knitting with this yarn was super cool because it's a pretty thick yarn, and I think I was using 5mm needles or 5.5 around there, so it knit up pretty quickly. The only thing was just having the perseverance to not put it down. So I decided finally, after a few months of not knitting on it, to pick it up and just finish it. So that's what I did. There are very cool features of this that I love, which are the twisted rib neckline as well as the button band, which is so super cute. Somehow I found these buttons at a secondhand shop and I feel like they're a pretty good fit for this. And the mohair has a little bit of a white core, so you can kind of see a little bit of that coming through, but it doesn't bother me. And it also has a twisted rib on the sleeves, which I love the look of. It came out super defined. And we got some twisted rib here. Here are the pockets, so there's 2 of them obviously. So these are knit separately and then sewed on. So when you put everything through and then you pull the thread, it's so satisfying. It disappears completely and it kind of looks like I knit this directly onto the sweater, but alas, I did not. I knit this in a size medium. I would say it's perfectly oversized. When I blocked it, I didn't stretch it that much. I pretty much just put it in the shape that it naturally formed in. If you want a bit of a more form-fitting size, I would suggest maybe going a size down since it is oversized. The yarn softened up so beautifully after blocking. I didn't mind the texture while I was knitting, but it was feeling a little bit rough. But once I was surfing Reddit and someone did mention that Knitting for Olive yarn softens up after blocking, so I was holding out for that. I think this might be my most worn piece at this point. I think we're in June, so it's a little hot for this. However, as soon as it cools down, I will be putting this on immediately. The pattern was great, super easy and very simple. Obviously, it's just a straightforward cardigan that you pick up the sleeve stitches for, which I don't love, but it is what it is. And this is super warm. I do live in California, so it doesn't get that cold, but sometimes at night it gets a little chilly, especially if you're by the water. And I've worn this with just a t-shirt underneath and it's kept me pretty warm. My next and final finished object is right over here. We have the Elizabeth blouse from Petite Knit. I'm so late. I think this pattern came out at this point, maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. But I just wanted to knit something that was basic. I'm not sure exactly what compelled me to knit this. It was probably not the best project to transition from such a boring stockinette pattern such as the Soul cardigan than to do another boring stockinette pattern. But I remember I ordered a bunch of yarn. This was the first yarn that arrived. So I decided to just start knitting and I finished it. This was a pretty straightforward pattern. Knitting this collar almost took me out because it took so long. Also, it took so much of my yarn, I ran out of mohair. She is a simple raglan sweater. Obviously, it has this nice foldable neck. Mine kind of opens up a little, but it doesn't stretch that much. I've seen some people sew in an elastic into the collar to keep it closed a bit more, but my tension is so tight, and when I blocked this, I did not stretch the collar. The collar was untouched, so I feel like it stands up pretty well. Here's a little bit of a closer look. I have not weaved in any ends, so please ignore. As you can see, it is a lovely gray color. I know, shocking, I knitted something in a neutral color. This is my first neutral piece. I knit her in a combo that I've used before. This is Drops Baby Merino and Drops Kid Silk. The Baby Merino color is number 22 light gray mix, and then the Drops Kid Silk is 44 Moonshine. I was surfing Ravelry one day and I saw someone use that exact yarn combination, so I just bought it, and shout out to her. Great yarn combo. Now for the abomination that is this mohair, I loved it at first. I was like, oh my god, it's so fluffy, and now looking at it, it looks a bit much, honestly. It does shed. If I wear black leggings, this does end up on my black leggings. So maybe I need to give it like a good shake, but as you can see, I shook it, and maybe you can't see it, but there's mohair flying in the air. And that's Drops Kid Silk sometimes. It's such a cheap yarn combination that I feel like I can't even complain. I knitted my Monday sweater in that combo. I didn't love the color. However, she's held up okay. I haven't worn it that much, but for a yarn combination that's under $100, I think it's greatly under $100. It might be around 60, 65 US. I feel like it's good enough. I'm not so picky. I know it's something that we take very many hours of our life to do, but sometimes if I want a product that is superior, then I know I'm gonna pay extra for that yarn. And sometimes I just want like a good basic that I don't have to think too much about, and that's this piece. However, when I did knit my sweater number 15, I was like, that is a standout piece, so I used a bit more expensive yarn, and I think that sweater ended up coming to maybe a little under $200, so definitely not cheap. But this is what you get for $60. It's super fluffy. Sometimes it kind of itches. I have worn this before with a t-shirt underneath. I think if I wore this on bare skin, I would probably peel my skin off. The tin silk mohair from Santa's Garn and the soft silk mohair from KFO, I can wear on my bare skin. I knitted my Stockholm sweater in 2 strands of mohair from Drops Kid Silk. However, that color, I don't know, the mohair was just super crispy. This one is much softer and less itchy, but still not 0% itchiness. I'd probably rate it at like 40% itchiness. As I said, I did run out of yarn. I bought 7 skeins of the Baby Merino and I did not run out of that. And then I bought 5 skeins of the Kid Silk mohair. I did run out. And luckily I only ran out in the ribbing, so it's not too much of a difference. As you can see, this is the side where I was alternating the mohair, and it did kind of distort this here, and then this is the side that I did have the mohair. She looks super luxurious. I'm not gonna complain. The mohair is a bit much. I think this project kind of tipped me over the edge. I am a mohair gal. I had someone comment on my TikTok, do I hold everything with mohair? And I do, but I think maybe some projects in my timeline will have no mohair. I knit this in a size medium. I think it's a perfect fit. When I blocked this, I didn't stretch it out too much. I kind of just, you know, fit it nicely around my body. I did stretch the sleeves up because they were about 2 to 3 inches too short, but also my tension is super tight. I think the color is super stunning. As I said earlier, the Baby Merino is a mix, so you can see a bit of variation in the color. There's some gray and some black as well. But yes, here is the completed sweater. I was pretty dedicated on finishing this, so I didn't work on anything else while I was knitting this. So it went by fairly quickly. I think it was on 4mm needles. Almost everything that I'm knitting now is on 4mm needles. Even the sweater that I'm knitting on now is on 4mm needles. I feel like it's just the standard. When I first started knitting, it was a bit daunting. I've been knitting a baby suit on what is, I believe, 2.75mm needles. I would not recommend. Now for my WIP update. This is not going to be very cute. I have started the Brady Loop sweater by Other Loops, and she is in pea shoots green. OMG. Now, is this giving me like the same feels as Poppy Blue? No, she's giving me feels though. This is about how much I've done so far. I think I started this around 2 weeks ago and I've been dedicated. I started it, I put it down, didn't pick it up, and then the last week or so, she has been knit on. Here is the back. As you can see, it has this lovely cable detailing that goes around the back, down the sleeves. Currently, I am doing the never-ending increases. I feel like I've been doing increases for a week, but I'm almost done with the body increases, and then I think I have to do the sleeve increases, and then I can split the sleeves off. I think when I started this pattern, I didn't realize that I wouldn't have to pick up stitches for the sleeves, but obviously that makes sense because the cable detailing is continuous. That was a pleasant surprise for me, but this color is stunning. This is a combination of knitting for olive merino and soft silk mohair, as I mentioned, both in pea shoots green. I am knitting size 2, which I think might be equivalent to a medium, but I just measured my bust and then looked at the measurements. Here is a bit closer up of the detailing. This was a semi-intricate but not super intricate sweater. I felt like it was a good medium between what I actually wanted to start knitting on and what I had just finished. It has a wide rib pattern, so it's 8 knit stitches and then 2 purl stitches over and over again, and then obviously you incorporate the cables on the sides as well. I did check Ravelry to make sure that I ordered the correct amount of yarn, so I ordered 6 merino and 6 mohair. The mohair is finishing faster than the merino. I didn't realize they weren't the same length, so hopefully I have enough mohair and we don't have another debacle. But I will continue to update you guys on how this is going in my knitting vlog. She is very fun to knit, but the increases are not very enjoyable at the moment. And here is the yarn combination that I'm using for that sweater. She's very beautiful, and I will say this color is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I just imagine wearing it with like a dark indigo wash jean. I think I might modify the pattern a little and do twisted rib neckline instead of the normal rib that they have, as well as twisted rib on the sleeves, and I think the body as well. I just have a preference for twisted rib and the look of it. It is a little bit more rigid, but I don't mind. Hopefully I can still fit this over my head. So I'll make it a little looser when I bind off, but we'll see. I think it's gonna be very good. Now for my knitting plans. As you can see, this year I have been knitting so slowly. I think last year I was able to get more knitting done just because I was spending a lot of time knitting and doing nothing else. Despite this, I do have many knitting plans. Obviously, it's pretty much summer at this point, so it's a bit hot out, so I have been focusing a lot more on sewing than knitting. And if I do knit, I'm not really knitting for speed or to have the item since I can't wear it probably for the next 3 months, but there still are a few patterns that have caught my eye. And by caught my eye, I mean I'm borderline obsessed with. The first one is the Froya sweater by Ingrid Dibb. I love that sweater. It looks very complicated. I have the pattern. I just don't have the correct yarn for it. I know exactly what I want, mainly because I saw someone else make it, and I'll pop that up on the screen. I already have like a pale yellow cardigan, but I just want this sweater in a pale yellow. I'm thinking Cascade 220 in anise flower and Santa's Garden silk mohair in lemon icing. I have it in my cart, an heirloom piece, so I do want to go a little bit nicer on the yarn. Originally I was looking at the alpaca wool also by Santa's Garden, but I think I put all the yarn that I needed in my cart and it was maybe like $220. My mother-in-law, who is a knitter, told me it's worth it, but I can't bring myself. And I loved Cascade 220 so much in my Daydreamer cardigan. It came out super soft and lovely, so I feel like it'll look really nice on the cables as well. The pattern is, it scared me. I am confident that I can finish it. I just am not sure how long it will take me. This might be a 3-month project. All I know is I want to wear it by the time we go to Europe in December. We're going on like a Central Europe winter vacation, so obviously all of my sweaters are coming with me. I did try to knit this sweater with a different yarn combination, and it was a complete and utter failure. The yarn combination that I tried knitting it in was Drops Air and Drops Kid Silk. These are both in the color Strawberry Ice Cream. As you can see, very beautiful, gorgeous colors. However, Drops Air and cables, it looked a hot mess. I feel like I could probably get away with using Drops Air and cables on like a less intricate sweater. However, the sweater is so complicated for me that the Drops Air was just not cutting it. I needed something that was gonna have a bit more stitch definition. But she is a very gorgeous combo. I'm excited to use her for something. I don't know what. Next pattern on my radar is the Stripe Overload Polo by Spectacle Strike. Now, is she very close and similar to the Elizabeth blouse? Yeah. And could I probably just use the Elizabeth blouse pattern and make a striped version? Yes. And now that I'm saying that, I think I will probably just do that. I do like the neckline of the Stripe Overload Polo, but I'm kind of feeling a little bad about just buying patterns and knitting them once. And I know life is long and I can knit these patterns multiple times down the road. But recently I've just been in a period of buying patterns and then using them once. And I would really like to use a pattern more than once. This sweater will not involve mohair. You heard it here first. For that, I want to use Cascade 220 again. Cascade 220 is just, it's an easy yarn to get in the United States. It's pretty affordable. Cascade 220 at my local yarn shop, I think is around $12 a skein, and it's 220 yards. So it's quite a bit of yarn. And then the website that I've been eyeing it on is $11. So it's even cheaper than my local yarn shop. But sometimes I'm just like, I'll take the L and support my small business. But I would love that in either red and pink, not original at all, or a sky blue and brown combo. Either would be very cute. Both would be very cute as well. Maybe if I tell myself I'll make both colorways, I will buy the pattern. Yes. And by not including mohair, I really want to make this sweater be more wearable, not in winter. Mohair has such a wintry look about it. And some things I feel like should just not have it. At this point, I have really matured. Next up, I have been thinking about this pattern for quite a long time. It's the Berlin scarf by Suzanne Mueller. However, it's such a simple pattern. I feel like it's something I could probably dedicate like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Every time I say a week, it ends up taking 3 weeks, but I could dedicate a relatively short amount of time to and get it finished. So it's not something that I've been urgently trying to do. I definitely want to have it completed by December for my trip. Basically, all of my warm gear, I want to make myself. It'll be a very cool experience, and I think the pictures will be so cool because one day I can show my kids and I can be like, I made this, I made this, I made this. And for that, I've seen people use Borstet Alpaca by Santa's Garn. However, Borstet Alpaca I think is maybe like $14 a skein, and you would need like 8. We're talking about almost $100 scarf, which I'm totally down for, just not this time. So Drops brushed alpaca silk it is. And I would love that in a cobalt blue color, specifically 26 cobalt blue. Last but not least, I want to get into knitting socks. I have seen so many cute colorwork sock patterns. I found a book on Amazon. Let me check what it's called. It's called Joyful Colorwork Socks by Charlotte Stone. Her patterns are so cute. I think I'm a little late, but here's the cover of the book. It has 25 joyful colorwork sock patterns. As you can see, the one she has on the cover is so freaking cute. I think I just need to do some of these like littler projects, a bit of a dopamine rush, because knitting sweaters and cardigans, great, wonderful dopamine rush after, a month and a half, a month of knitting. Socks, I feel like I could bang out like maybe a sock every 2 weeks, and that would be great. I knitted my colorwork mittens, which you guys may or may not remember, the Alma mittens, and those were so fun. Obviously knitting socks, it's a much smaller needle size. I think I'm gonna get the book because I just love everything about this pattern designer. She also has an Instagram, and she puts these socks together in like these baskets, and they look so just stunning. I know this is sounding a little crazy just going on about socks, but I feel like you guys get me. And with that, I am wrapping up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please, if you want to see more videos from me, drop some ideas down below. I'm currently in the middle of preparing for summer vendor markets. I own a small business and I am expanding my product line, so I've been a bit busy, and I'm also taking a social media detox to kind of cleanse my brain. TikTok was getting to be a lot. With that, I'm trying to be a little bit more creative with my video ideas and hopefully post a little bit more. I have two sides of myself that are always warring with each other. One, I feel like would just like to never be on the internet ever again, and then the other is like, this is a good creative outlet. So we're gonna go with that one, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.